Good morning. It's the 4th of March 2025. It's a lovely bright day here in rural Ireland. You'd need a jumper like this on you, but it's not too cold and a great day for getting things done, and the sun is shining. This video is Zelensky, a cokehead. Now, Ursula von der Leyen has recently said that disinformation will have to be tackled, and that includes on the internet. So my days on these things may well be numbered, but I want to give you my view of what I think of all that's going on. When I was a young lad, I was very politically aware, and I would read the newspapers and all, and I always had a great love of freedom and the things that people do when they get free. And I began to realise that there was freedom of a sort in Britain and in America, and that among the things that it produced was some of the greatest music and pop music and all of that sort of stuff that you could possibly hear. Lovely, lovely songs. ABBA, The Doors, the Beatles, all that anyway, and the literature and the poetry that came out of these places was very good. So I could see that the United States was becoming a great power, and I just felt that the way it handled the NATO population was a bit rough, and it didn't have to be as hard on them as it was. And one of the first holidays I took when I grew up was to go over to see the Lakota Native Americans in the west of America. But that didn't mean that I hated America. It just meant that I felt it could have done better, and I was the Irish spokesman for trying to get Leonard Peltier, who had 50 years imprisonment in America, a Native American, out, and he's got out just a while back there. So in any event, that was what I thought about America. I seen the great things it achieved, and that comes from the freedom of its scientists and all of that to prosper. And I saw that parcels coming home to Ireland from aunties and uncles in America that send home messages and a few dollars to the people back in Ireland. So they were good to us, and I always wished America well. But as I got older, I began to see that America was doing things that it shouldn't be doing, that it was provoking wars abroad, and that there was a hidden like a kind of a Mason, but not necessarily Freemasons, thread running through America that needed to be watched, a deep state as it were. And that deep state reached its zenith in 2016 when Obama got his term and he began to run it into the ground with his mass migration and everything else. Trump stayed it off for a while. He hadn't experienced. They got on his back. They created Russian collusion hoaxes and all of that, and they put him out by fair means or foul in 2020, and he got back in, and now he's back in with the experiences of all of that. Now, the other thing I looked at was Russia. Russia was another great power. And I could see that it had at once the gulags and all that, but I could see that Gorbachev was the Prime Minister of Russia, was the leader of Russia, and they gave him no support. He was a good man. Gorbachev was a very good man, and he got no support whatsoever from the West or anything to keep him going and bring America up. So that set Russia back 20 years. But then the old Soviet Union died away. It's not that it's a perfect society, but don't believe anything you're told. It's not as bad as to say. There's an Irish journalist living in Moscow which will clarify that. Putin is a different type of a person. He's not for the old Soviet Union, although he admires some things of it. He wants to make Russia great again, and so does Trump want to make America great again. What is wrong with that? And he's a conservative on the issues of men and women's sports, on the woke baloney, the renewable crap, the climate change baloney, and all of that, the same as Trump. So then we go along and we go to China. And I always heard growing up in this house, the old people saying, and in other people's houses, because I'd be around other houses, they'd be saying to you, one of the things they used to say was that the Jews will never have a home. And that seems to have stemmed from the crucifixion of Christ. I don't know, is that right or not? I'm expressing no view about it, but that's what the old people used to say. But I never heard, nearly all those Catholic homes you'd hear that in, I must say. But in any event, the other thing they always said was that the yellow man will rule the world, and that meant the Chinese. And at that time, China was way back in the 70s, and there was nothing very good about it. The what do you call him, Chairman Mao had done his thing, and it wasn't very pleasant. But that has changed quite a lot. And while I would like to see some type of democracy in China, nevertheless, the Chinese Communist Party, for all its faults, has brought the country up economically and made it a major powerhouse and the factory of the world, which would probably not happen if you had democracy there, because we have democracy in Ireland. We had an election on the 29th of November, and the people went in and voted for the very same parties that are doing all the harm. So enough said about that. But the thing about it is, I'm saying what I dreamt about and what I wished for when I was young, and nearly all of that has come to pass. America is still a great country, but was under attack. It's now reversed by Trump. Russia is still a great country. It's under sanctions and it's still surviving and still holding its place. And China is a great country, and it's providing us with our smartphones and our laptops, probably the one that I'm speaking to you here on this smartphone. And they can produce a smartphone and a camera with a paused record, and no other country in the world can do it. They're the only one can do it. So that's the thing. Now, where does that leave Britain? Well, Britain deindustrialised, and I used to love the British people, the English people, and the British people generally, and particularly their engineering. I used to go over, and I still do go over to model engineering exhibitions in Britain, and how they have perfected soldering, welding, and all those things. They were great that way. And the Victorian and even afterwards, the things they did. I mean, they did invent the jet engine, even though they weren't allowed. The man that did it, Frank Whittle, wasn't allowed to develop it. But the people of Britain, unfortunately, voted socialist, the same as Hitler, same party as Hitler was a member of, and in a different country, and voted socialist. And the US Democratic Party went the same. It was the party of John F. Kennedy. It went the same. So as I saw these countries developing and becoming good countries, I saw the socialism taking over, except in China, where the socialism is the rule of law in the country, but it's only make-up socialism. And of course, Russia, to some degree, is not there either. That type of socialism is not there either. So we now have three great superpowers, and those superpowers speak to each other in a different language. They don't necessarily have to take into account the opinion of you and me. And that brings me round to the European Union and the Ukraine war. I'm on 7 minutes. I read all the documentation before I recommended people and myself to vote for Europe. I voted yes to Europe because I read the Lisbon Treaty, the treaties on the fundamentals of the European Union, and I felt they were good. And then when we had the EU, when it was going full belt, I discovered they never intended honouring any of it. They have laws now that even tries to contravene the Irish Constitution on the right to individual liberty and free speech. And we see that in Britain with Starmer, and we see Europe divided between the wokes, the ones that want, like Macron, that wants men beating women in the Olympic Games in Paris, and the likes of me who are conservatives. F-I-C-I, Fishy, in Slovakia, I think it is. He's on my side, and Orban is on my side in Hungary. Now we have Le Pen coming on in France, shouting at them not to go ahead with the boots on the ground. But the point about Britain is it has an unbelievable pathological hatred of Russia. And America doesn't really have that pathological hatred. Now, the deep state in America has it. 45% of the American people still have it a bit, and up to 30% still hate Russia, but the majority don't, and they voted for Trump, and Trump does not hate Russia. He's always said, wouldn't it be nice if we could get along? And in order to stop any kind of peace, they created the Russian collusion hoax to keep Trump down. In Ireland, 80% of the people disagree with me and hate Trump with a vengeance. They hate him, but there's 20% who see the light and don't. So now we have the situation that Zelensky's press gang are lifting and kidnapping boys of 16 and 17 off the streets of Ukraine. And I may well have Ukrainian people watching me here. And if you do, will you post underneath you're Ukrainian? You can disagree with me. I won't put you out for disagreeing with me, only for messing around. And I don't want a flood of migrants in here. I always opposed it. I do realise the situation with refugees. We can't take them all. But I would say to them, where there are young lads between the ages of 13 and 18 still walking free in Ukraine, or if they're conscripted into the army, get them out and get them over to Ireland. Look, I haven't the heart. I honestly don't have the viciousness in me to say to a young chap from Ukraine of 17 years of age, you have to be put into the meat grinder. Now, it doesn't mean I want him brought here and made a citizen, but I want him protected, and I wouldn't mind a little bit of my taxes going to let him eat and let him get by here, and I'd buy him an old mobile phone or something, let him try and get by. I do not want to see people murdered on the fields of Zelensky. Zelensky is a tramp, a dirty tramp, a cokehead. He looked to be sniffing coke before he went in to meet President Trump. That's what he is. And I believe he's guilty of the kidnapping and the murder of these young lads. And I'll tell you this, Mr. Zelensky, if any court ever sentence you to death and they need an executioner, I hereby undertake to carry out that execution. I will do it. I'll hang you the same as I'll not say a dog, but I'll put your lights out and you'll die at my hands. Because you are a killing, dirty, rotten villain, a dirty tramp, and your country cohabitated with Hunter Biden. The corruption there, and a lot of the anti-Trump feeling was because Trump was finding out what Hunter Biden was up to. Zelensky and his government has the most corrupt country in the world. Half of the money they got is gone. A big money laundering scheme, and our government is now giving, I think it's 800 million to that drain pipe. Gone. And so is the rest of Europe. Now, that is the only reservation I have. But remember what I'm saying to you. I always hoped that the world would evolve around the way it is at the minute, but I never dreamt our government would give it away for migrants and all this thing. I never thought they'd do that. I never thought European would do this, but they did, because they hate us with a vengeance. The only Western country that doesn't hate the likes of me is Hungary, Slovakia, and the United States, and maybe the Le Pen faction in France. Okay, we have a new prime minister coming on in Germany, Merz, and he is determined to destroy Russia. Now, here's now what's going to happen, subject to that. When Zelensky got tossed out of the White House, he wouldn't have manners. Not only did he insult Trump and Vance, but he kept at it. He never said, well, look, I lost my head a little there, can we make it up? He decided to go over there, and he was going to teach them something, bearing in mind that Trump and Vance has put their policies before the American voter and said what they're going to do and are doing it. And he thinks he's going to counter the American voter. Right? I now read that Trump has suspended all military aid to Ukraine. That's some blow. That's some blow. It gave twice the amount to Ukraine that the Europeans did. The Europeans would not, for the members of NATO, would not step up to the plate and give 4% of their GDP for NATO, for defence. Yet they were spending it on their green junk. The Europeans have a propensity for hysteria. Hysteria, if I'm correct. Hysteria. Hysteria about the Jews with Hitler. Oh, we have to kill all the Jews. When there was no real evidence other than maybe that they were hoarding up a bit of money. That could have been fixed at all. Hysteria. Hysteria about global cooling a bit. Hysteria about global warming. Hysteria. We're going to boil. We're going to fry. And the huge billions of euros that they pump it in to the suggested fake, deluded cures of wind energy and solar energy. And the failure to engage with Russia on matters of importance like Ukraine and have a wee chat about what was going on and try and fix it. They hate Russia with a vengeance, even though the proper position for them is trade between Russia and Europe, which would be great for all parties. There's things I used to buy from Russia, I can't buy it anymore. Okay, so not only that, but the European Union is a killer of the right to free speech. It's a killer of personal freedoms. I can't get the basic, simple, antique firearms I'd love to use instead of modern ones, maybe to enjoy my sports. I can't have them. They're clamping down on free speech, and they're now after assembling at Lancaster House in London, and I'm sad to say it very much looks to me like Reform UK is in with them, although I won't say that yet. But I don't think they are yet. But maybe they wouldn't. So Marine Le Pen has come out against it, and so has Orban, and so has Fici. Okay, now, what have they decided? We stand by Ukraine to the last man, to the last Ukrainian soldier. We're going to stand by Ukraine to the last United States soldier. Last American soldier. But now, because they're fast running out of soldiers, Ukraine lost 38,000 soldiers recently, and it has only managed to conscript something like 18,000 young boys. So they're running out of soldiers. Killed by Zelensky. Murdered. For which I promise to inflict the proper justice on him at the end of a rope. So the thing about it is now they're promising to use their own troops. They're going to spend money they couldn't find for Trump. They couldn't create defence before. Now they're going to find it. How are they going to pay for the stupid windmills and the stupid woke stuff when the soldiers will be getting in? It'll all be in fishnet tights. They'll all be transgender. They'll imitate Montgomery some ways. They're going to now, Starmer has said, boots on the ground, planes in the air. He didn't say ships on the ocean yet. But Ukraine is largely landlocked. So he's determined, before any negotiations takes place with Russia, between Russia and the United States, he wants to be in on it. You can't have bilateral negotiations with anyone except the two parties. As they meet, he wants in. My advice to you, President Trump, do not let the Europeans or the British in under any circumstances. Don't let them into any talks. And what they're going to try and do, folks, they're going to get their soldiers ready and they're going to horse them into Western Ukraine while the talks is taking place and try and break down those talks. The idea was to get some type of guarantee from Trump that if they did that, Trump would back them with American firepower, which would automatically lead to a nuclear exchange. Macron is talking about stationing tactical nuclear weapons in Western Ukraine. Now, I have a hierarchy of sympathies. British soldiers have the option to desert, to leave. Don't go to the Ukraine. European soldiers have the same. You're going to see German soldiers marching into the Ukraine. That'll be the third time this type of thing happened in history. They're going to march into the Ukraine like Hitler had them before. And now we have our Irish government going to give them money and talking about buying fighter jets and trying to hide it that, oh, well, we want to protect our airspace. What's the chances of Russia coming in and invading Ireland or anybody else? It's zero. Yet they're going to buy planes. And who are they going to get to fly it? Only probably unfortunate Irish pilots. And where are they going to be trained? In Britain. Why do we need to spend anything on jet planes? Why do we need anything like that except for rescue at sea? Certainly we need helicopters and things for rescue at sea. So that's what Simon Harris is up to. And the next thing is there's going to be motions put through the Dáil backed by the Healy Rays, Michael Lowry and that other old one over in Sligo, Marion Harkin, that will allow Ireland to participate in the war against Russia in Ukraine. And my wishes will come true. They'll be killed out of it by the hundreds. And you Fianna Gael voters will see your sons and daughters coming back in body bags. And to hell with Jews, because you've had an election in the 29th of November and you voted for the same old phobies, and you had the Irish Freedom Party to try and break some of this, you had the National Party to try and break it, and you had independents of various types trying to break the grip of the mad George Soros, the World Economic Forum, the globalists and the whole lot. And you didn't take it. And you didn't take it. And you'll never take it until you're standing at the graves of your beloved children, fighting against a country you know nothing about, the Soviet Union before, then the Russian Federation now. A country that, if there was peace in the world, would be exchanging students, and Irish students would be marrying Russian women and vice versa. And we'd be trading with fuel and everything else. But a country that refuses to adopt the woke agenda. That's what Russia is. So you're going to be crying at the grave for that cause. And for the cause of Ursula Fund of lying. The dirty, dirty tramp. That's all she is. She has legal questions and crime questions hanging over her. She has no electoral mandate. She's elected by a inside crowd in Europe, all set up before there's any election and no viable opposition allowed. Okay? So this is what we have. We're going to see European Union crushed. Great. I hope that the mature British soldiers, French soldiers, and German soldiers, excuse me with the cat, go on down there. German soldiers, well, they're the ones attacked. I don't want to see 16-year-old Ukrainian men being in this. At least let the adult soldiers put up with it. My advice is get out. Don't have anything to do with them. If you're in the military in Europe, walk off. My advice, if you're in the military in Ukraine, get out. Have nothing to do. If I were there, I'd turn on Zelensky. I'd get a troop together and he'd be defending Ukraine against me. And I'd tell him by telegraph fairly quick, I'll hang you when I get you. And that'd put him from smoking his coke. This never had to happen. Never had to happen. But the Lord moves in mysterious ways. And when they get well trashed, then we might get a Europe where we can have a proper economic union and where we can have good conservative policies instead of this mad wokeness that has destroyed us all, that has wasted so much of my time helping communities fighting the stupid renewable energy junk, and that has the people paying a high electricity price in Ireland, paying for the pensions of foreign people. That's it, folks. That's it. If you're in the British or European armies, you can walk off. Let them jail you. They tried to make you take the vaccine, didn't they? Right. And they sacked people for not taking it. So, the devil mend them. The quicker the whole EU collapses round their ears, financially and everything else, the better. I think Trump also knows that the US economy is not in a good shape and he has to be very careful or it'll go down the tubes very, very easily. It only takes the lenders to stop lending and he is in big trouble. So it's not going to be easy doing that. So he has to try and get some type of peace in the world. But the one word that will not speak its name in the European Union and in NATO is peace. That one that was thrown out in the election in Latvia, Estonia or Lithuania. I think it's Latvia. It's one of the 3 Baltic states. It is a population about equal to Dublin. She's Khaled. She's now the anti-Russian war hawk in the European Commission. That's the one that's me. And she's only 33 or 4. Horsed out by the electorate. And now she's back in this way. And von der Leyen, the same, and I could name many more. They have no democratic mandate. The right government in Germany should be a conservative government. They won't allow that either. And don't forget, in Romania, the people elected a person that didn't like and they've blocked his election. So they are just as undemocratic and as dictatorship as Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany. Comment underneath, 26 minutes. This thing is a serious business. I'm telling you again, you Sinn Fein supporters, you Fine Gael supporters, you Fianna Fail supporters, you Richard Boyle Carrot supporters, you People Before Puberty supporters, you Labour Party supporters, all of you are full square behind attacking Russia. Full square behind attacking Russia. And you will stand at the grave of your loved ones, and some of them will never be returned. The bodies will be blown to bits. But those that are, you'll see the bullets through their heads and the shrapnel through their bodies, and you'll be there crying and going down to the local hotel for tea and sandwiches, and people lamenting about it. You have the chance to do this now. You must turn your support away from these creepy parties. And you must get onto your politician and tell them, we want to stay neutral. We want to keep our traditional neutrality. We don't want any weakening of it. But you won't do it. And because of that, I predict that tears will roll down your head. They'll roll down your cheeks when you see your loved ones killed for Ursula von der Leyen. Get off me case. Good luck. Comment underneath. Bye.